Good evening. My name is Diane Festino, Township Clerk of Jackson Township. The time is now 7:33 p.m., and we'll open our regular council meeting of January 25th, 2022. We'll begin with a roll call. Councilman Borelli?
Here.
Councilman Chisholm? Here. Councilman Sawicki?
Here.
Council Vice President Kern?
Here.
Council President Fleming?
Here.
Attorney Gregory McGuckin?
Here.
Also present this evening is our Business Administrator, Terrence Wall, and Mayor Michael Rayner. As clerk of this meeting, I publicly announce that in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been advertised in the manner prescribed by law. The statement shall be entered into the minutes of the meeting. We'll now begin with council comments from Township Council.
Thanks, Clerk Festino. First, our thoughts and prayers are with the families and fellow officers of NYPD Officer Jason Revere, just 22, murdered in the line of duty in Harlem last Friday. So awful and tragic. Please pray for his fellow officer, Wilbert Mora, who was also shot as he fights for his life. It's sickening what's happening. He actually passed away. I'm so sorry.
Recently.
Thank you. I did not know that. I thought he was still in the hospital, struggling after a few surgeries. Please keep the family and officers of Wilbert Mora also in your prayers, as he, I was informed, passed away. It's really awful and tragic. It's sickening what's happening in our country with the increase in crime. Thank God for our police. Please keep them in prayer as they work to keep our community safe and secure 24/7. And to the JTPD, this council has your back. So sorry to hear that. Thank you to Councilman Sawicki for Ordinance 0122, creating a citizen advisory board for Rova Farms. Because of his efforts, and Councilman Kern, with the purchase of the Rova Farms property in 2019, this significant historic area of our town will be preserved for residents to enjoy for years to come. This continues our goal on the council to protect Jackson's environment and natural resources. Thank you. Stay warm and safe, Jackson. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Councilman Chisholm?
Good evening, welcome. I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to yet another ridiculous Democrat government overreach from Trenton. Not that this is something new, because almost everything they do is government overreach and mandates. Why? Because they cannot influence you and just use common sense and have debate. They like to force things on you. So in this economy, tell me why it is that you want to possibly raise everybody's oil and gas bill and mandate that you redo your heating. On top of that, in December, they decided, yes, this is Senator Bob Smith from Crazy Town, New Jersey. Way to represent, Bob. He dropped in S4273 in December. This bill would require that all businesses and private homeowners effectively throw away your perfectly good working gas-powered leaf blowers because they are such a menace. That's right. They are killing the environment. First, it's the plastic straws. Now it's the gas blowers. So you will not only have to buy a new blower, even if yours is perfectly working, but you can be fined. So after 1 year in service, they will make you throw away the ones that do work. And where are you going to put those? If you're saving the environment, are you throwing them in the landfill? Good idea. Where are you going to get these batteries? That's right, we have to go overseas. Let's go ahead and get them from China. Thank you, Brandon. Great job with that one, right? So what are we doing? Thankfully, this one was squashed, but all bad legislation comes back. So keep your eyes out. Watch Bob Smith and watch Trenton. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. Councilman Sawicki?
Thank you. My condolences also go out to the families of Officer Rivera and Mora. Very eloquent and emotional words from Councilman Borelli around it, and the reason the councilman probably didn't know, he did just pass away this afternoon, the second officer, so it was fairly recent. It was a that was a murder, it was an assassination, it was an ambush of those officers, and it reminds us of how important a role the police play. As Councilman Borelli mentioned, this council has spoken about Jackson Police on numerous occasions, and I'll say it again, they are second to none in this state, and certainly have the back of the governing body. And it's unfortunate that there's incidents like this with what happened with the NYPD that has to remind people of the job that these officers do every day and put their lives on the line. I also wanted to send my condolences to the Glory family. They lost, Clara Glory lost her mother this week. We just spoke about Pat Wood only a couple weeks ago, who was very active in the town, who was Clara's sister. So again, another loss within that family, family that's very active in town, and my condolences to them. Thanks to Councilman Borelli about mentioning Ordinance 0122 around Rover Farms. The response to the new subcommittee that we're looking to create has been overwhelming. We wrote the ordinance to have up to 10 people participate on that subcommittee. I'm sure we've exceeded interest in that already, and we haven't even done the second reading on it yet. So clearly, as we thought when the opportunity to purchase that property and preserve it for the town and the residents came up, we thought that we'd get a good response. We did, and it seems that we were spot on in that people recognize that it's an important piece of history within the town, and that the subcommittee, with resident participation, which is what it's designed for, has gotten a great response and certainly will be developed into something great with that level of participation. Thanks for everyone that did come out tonight. Get home safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Kern?
Thank you. I waive further comments. Just please get home safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Fleming?
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I also want to offer my condolences to Clara for her second loss in a rather short time. We are supposed to get some nasty weather this weekend. Just make sure you prepare ahead of time. Whether it does or it doesn't come, it's better to be prepared. And if it comes, be safe. The last thing I want to talk about is something that's not on your docket. It's Resolution 091-R22, which allows us to participate in a national opioid settlement program. Now, this has to do with a multi-billion-dollar settlement that by participating in this program, we have the possibility of getting some of the money back from what our emergency services have spent in time and man-hours responding to these problems. So it's not on your docket, it was late edition, but this way you have some background information on what we're talking about. Thank you. Have a safe evening.
Thank you. Mayor Michael Reyna, would you have anything to add?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Jackson Township Council has put out there, our thoughts and prayers go with the families of the murdered police officers in New York City. Our thoughts and prayers to NYPD as well for having to put up with more abuse at the highest level. Jackson Township residents, please let it be known, rather, that our response to defund the police is to not only defend our police department, we will be hiring even more officers now. We're not going to do what a Democrat-controlled city or a Democratic-appointed DA will do and leave their law enforcement officers to the side. We're going to stand behind them. We're going to stand strong with them. We're going to build our department to make it even stronger than what it is right now. Your public safety is going to be job one, no matter what anybody says outside of these walls of Jackson, and that's what they are. We're going to have walls, and we're going to have a strong police department and a supported police department. Council President Fleming had brought up the possibility of this week's snowstorm. Right now, it's not looking good. And big surprise, surprise, the forecasters have been wrong before. Let's hope they're wrong again. That being said, any issues should be directed to the Department of Public Works and/or the mayor's office, and we'll get on those streets that weren't attended to. That being said, everyone please stay safe, get home safe, and I wish you well. Have a good evening. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. We'll proceed with the motion to approve executive session minutes of January 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Roll call?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
And Council President Fleming.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinances for second reading. 01-22, ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 3 of the Township's Administrative Code of the Township of Jackson to create the Rover Farms Advisory Board. We will now have a public hearing on Ordinance 01-22. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance should please come to the microphone. Your name and address for the record, please.
Eleanor Hannum, Jackson, New Jersey. With the advisory committee, I was, first and foremost, thank you very much for doing this. Rover Farms and the Casville section of Jackson has a very, very strong and deep culture, especially for the Russian population, which many of them have moved since, but the culture and the history that goes back to Rover Farms and Casville is very, 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 very precious to me. I have many contributions from some of the older, who are no longer with us, who have migrated from Russia as it fell under Soviet control, under Lenin, who some of these Russians have sold themselves into indentured servitude, into Eastern European, to finally make their way to Jackson and then settle here. Many of which would hide their money in the ground on the land they lived on. These are just some of my stories. But I want to thank you for doing this. I do have a question, because I do know this property was purchased through eminent domain. So when it comes to the development of this property, or the preservation of this property, will there at any time be an opportunity that Jackson Township would sell it to, say, a developer to maintain it as open space?
Well, it wasn't bought by eminent domain, it was purchased with open space funds.
It was.
And, what, eminent domain?
No, it was,
Oh,
it was,
yeah,
you're correct.
It was not
And the
eminent.
township is not in the habit of selling land at all. We're trying to acquire as much as we can to keep open space.
Okay.
So the possibility here of that happening would be between little and none.
Okay, thank you. As far as the building, the structure that is there, I know that it has been mentioned that it would be demolished.
It will be. There have been people through it trying to pull the more historic pieces out. I know they're looking to get an entire wall out of it that has a mural on it and have that restored. There is a asbestos issue with the building, and we've already gotten RFPs on that. That's going to be a problem coming down, but it's something we're going to do. But yes, the building is not salvageable. We're just going to get everything out of it we can. It's
So-
been a lot of damage, even recently, from people breaking in.
Yes, I'm aware of that area. Is there any way that any footprint of that structure can be saved? And the reason why I'm saying this, many of you are not aware of this, but, you know, during the culture and the history of Rover Farms, the pavilion was there. Are you aware that there was a pavilion?
Yes.
And the pavilion was right on the lake.
Yep.
Literally on the lake. And every summer, the Russian people would come here from all parts of this country to celebrate with each other and to join together. And they would have these grand, grand parties and galas and dinners, and my brother and I used to sneak in at a very young age. And it has because of the demolition of that part of the heritage and history is completely gone. So Jackson really did our community a disservice by just demolishing it. And it's just wiped clean. My concern is that this structure that hosted many other events and restaurants and things like that would too just go by the wayside and the history would be gone.
Feelings aside, though, sometimes a building just cannot be salvaged.
So
This
is
wouldn't
not,
be financially feasible for us or prudent for us to do it. I understand historical pieces, but it's just not.
and there's not any piece of that footprint that can be preserved.
The plans haven't gotten that far along, but the building is slated to be taken down. Yes.
If you have suggestions, as was mentioned, and we're getting ready to vote on, we're going to have a committee, and there will be members on that, and Councilman Sawicki and myself are supposed to serve on that. So if you have specific ideas, once the committee is formed, by all means, bring them to us, and if it is something that's logistically possible, we will consider it, because like he was saying, there's nothing that's been decided except for safety and other purposes, that building needs to come down. Whether a footprint or something else, nothing has been determined, so
Okay.
we don't know.
And as far as the committee is concerned, how do you apply?
Excuse me?
How do you apply?
How do you apply? If you could just fill out a citizens leadership form, which you'll find on the township website, put that in, and then we're going to choose members. Right now, we set up to 10. Like I mentioned in opening comments, I think we easily have that in terms of interest. And the mix that we proposed in the ordinance would include an educator from town, as well as a historian, somebody from Pathfinders, who's already responded, and Green Acres, among
So
others.
basically, a history teacher, someone with a master's in history, something like that?
It could be somebody like that, yeah.
Okay.
And the thought being, I think to a lot of your comments, that there's a lot of education we think that should be preserved around that, the history, but also taught in an educational way is at least an idea that we've been hearing and kicking around, whether it's the history of the area, the history of the wildlife in the area, and the education of the wildlife in the area. So that's why we specifically put that in the ordinance, is that we wanted an educator to help us kind of frame this out. To your other comment about preserving the footprint, as Councilman Chisholm said, that's all part of the subcommittee. I mean, we're going to look for that kind of feedback, and anything that we can put in the plans that seems to make sense, and whether it's a cornerstone of the building or something else, maybe there's something relevant there that we can preserve. But as a council president said, we've been in the building. Personally, I've been in it a couple of times, and there's definitely an asbestos problem, and definitely a water damage problem, significant. So it's got to come down, but I think we're going to do what we can to preserve whatever we can within the building, including there's been things like menus and things like that have been sitting there for a decade that look brand new in some cases. And again, with the subcommittee's help, we'll determine what we can preserve and keep involved in the ongoing use of the property.
Okay. Before I came here tonight, I sent most of you an email with links to grants for historical preservation,
Great.
both national and state. So I would ask that you would please look into that and try to utilize those resources for grants for the preservation, historical preservation of that,
Great.
that
Thank you.
property. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ordinance 01-22 and advertise the notice of passage and approval in an approved newspaper as required by law.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes, and the best of luck to the people that are running this committee.
Great, thank you.
Ordinance 03-22, an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 210 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson with respect to flood damage prevention. We will now have the public hearing on Ordinance 03-22. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please come to the microphone.
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Ordinance 03-22 and advertise a notice of passage and approval in an approved newspaper as required by law.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
Ordinance 04-22, an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 162-4 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson with respect to volume calculations for certain new construction. We will now have the public hearing on Ordinance 04-22. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please come to the microphone.
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve Ordinance 04-22 and advertise a notice of passage and approval in an approved newspaper as required by law.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
Ordinance 05-22, an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, replacing Chapter 244, Land Use and Development Regulations, Article 3, Administration, Section 244-12.J, Fees, Mandatory Development Fees of the Township of Jackson to provide for the collection of development fees in support of affordable housing as permitted by the New Jersey Fair Housing Act. We will now have the public hearing on Ordinance 05-22. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please come to the microphone.
Seeing no one come forward, move to close public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Ordinance 05-22 and advertise a notice of passage and approval in an approved newspaper as required by law.
So moved.
Second?
And roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
Ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 02-22, an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 3-107 of the Township Code of the Township of Jackson to authorize the hiring of entry-level law enforcement officers without a civil service examination pursuant to NJSA 11A:4-1.3. Motion to approve Ordinance 02-22 on first reading and to authorize a notice of approval and public hearing to be held on February 8th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
And yes.
Next on the agenda is the first public hearing for the Ocean County Community Development Block Grant Program for calendar year 2022. And our business administrator may have a few words for what the township may be looking to do.
Thank you, Council President and Council. We're applying for $155,000, and we're looking to help enhance the Americans with Disability Act, enhancements for in various areas that have not yet been defined, but throughout the township, particularly we're thinking parks this year as well, to be able to help with mobility and ADA accessibility for our public places.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you. We will now continue with the first public hearing, Ocean County Development Block Program, calendar year for 2022. In accordance with the guidelines set forth, the township is required to hold a public hearing for the purpose of soliciting ideas and applications the community would like to see presented to the Ocean County Community Development Block Grant Program for calendar year 2022. This hearing will enable the township to select and prioritize applications for the Ocean County Community Development Block Grant Program. The second public hearing is scheduled for February 8th or soon thereafter, here in the main meeting room of the Jackson Township Municipal Building. At this time, we will have the first of the two public hearings on the Ocean County Community Development Block Program application. Anyone wishing to speak on this topic and bring forth any suggestions may do so at this time.
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We will now continue with council discussion on resolutions only.
I have one.
Go ahead.
On Resolution 079R-22, this is a resolution to authorize road widening. There's a number of roadways, county roadways in our township that need to be widened, need to be set up for future use, and the county really needs to step up and be able to set up these roadways so that there's not traffic, the likes of which we haven't had in this township since I've been here. And everything from 571 to 527, 528, and then 547, all those different roadways all need to be widened, all need to be addressed now before the town gets more densely populated. Thank you.
Anyone else? We're good?
Okay, we'll continue with public comment opening on resolutions only. If you wish to speak on the resolutions, please address the council at the microphone. Thank you. Your name and address for the record?
Eleanor Hannum, Jackson, New Jersey. I just have a question regarding the road widening. For example, and I agree, this town, at its inception, did not anticipate this growth. But for example, a road such as Cedar Swamp Road, which is 527, how would this town or this county, for that matter, how would they possibly widen that road without basically widening the road and bringing it to people's front doors?
If they have to, they will. They usually swing the road from side to side to alleviate that as much as possible. But if they feel the need through their county planning and county engineer, it's going to happen. There was a long-term plan that all 5 series roads in the county were going to be dualized. It's a long-term plan, but they're slowly bringing it to fruition.
So
Eminent domain is possible, yes.
that was my question.
I can never say that it won't be. If the county decides that for the public good, that this needs to happen, but there's always a motion of last resort. They'll move the road. If you notice the roads are never straight, they'll side to side to do as little damage as possible.
Mm-hmm. So I guess through eminent.
Well, what this resolution is doing is offering up township property for the county. That's what this is allowing. It's all this is allowing.
Okay.
We have nothing to do with county planning and county engineering. We're just offering up anything that we own to make it easier for them.
To do what they need to do.
Right.
Well,
That's all.
Okay, so you may not have the answer to this. How long would residents be given notice? Because my concern is Cedar Swamp Road, and I know how close those homes are, and we're talking a lot of families.
And I would have to defer that to our attorney because I'm not sure the legalities of that. I would not see it being a fast process. They'd have engineering to go through, Pinelands to go through, environmental to go through. They have a lot of hoops to jump through. So it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. But possibly our attorney could give you a better lineage for dates.
Yeah,
I cannot.
I'm looking at primarily between Glory's and the intersection right here. Because that's where those homes, some of their front yards, I mean,
Mr. President, if I could-
Yes.
So, again, the resolution that's on the agenda tonight is only to authorize a dedication of township land. It has nothing to do
Okay.
with other private potential eminent domain projects the county may undertake anytime in the next 50 years. This is just about township land that the county needs to widen the road. That's all it is.
Okay.
Okay,
All
sorry.
right.
All right,
No, that's fine. I didn't expect him to answer it. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Seeing no one, move to close public portion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 078R-22, amend 2021 budget, transfer resolution number 5.
Motion, please.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
Resolution 079R-22, a resolution authorizing the dedication of certain real property to the County of Ocean for roadway widening purposes.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
You sure?
Okay.
Yes.
Resolution 08R-22, consent to the appointment of member to the Apartment and Home Park Rent Leveling Board.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Yes.
Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
Now entertain a motion for bills and claims.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Abstain on vendor numbers DEL 01, STA 01, and STA 76, but yes to the rest on the bills and claims agenda.
Thank you. Councilman Chisholm?
Abstain from COM 44, EDW 04, and TMO 2, but yes for the rest.
Thank you. Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Abstain from vendor number SUR 09, yes to the rest.
Council President Fleming?
Yes.
We now continue with consent agenda requiring one vote for all resolutions. Resolution 081R-22, authorize a continuation of a shared services mutual aid agreement between the Township of Jackson and the Township of Millstone pertaining to conflict of interest in emergency coverage construction code enforcement services. 082R-22, authorize execution of a shared services agreement between the Township of Jackson and the County of Ocean for the Prosecutors Program, also known as the Fatal Accident Support Team, FAST, for calendar year 2022. 083R-22, authorize submission of recycling tonnage grant application to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for calendar year 2022. 084R-22, amend Resolution 070R-22, authorizing purchases and/or services from approved New Jersey cooperative pricing vendors for calendar year 2022. 085R-22, authorizing renewal of junkyard license for calendar year 2022 to Central Jersey Auto Salvage, Block 2501, Lot 15, located 378 West Commodore Boulevard. 086R-22, approved Township Council reorganization minutes of January 4th, 2022. 087R-22, approved Township Council meeting minutes of January 11th, 2022. 088R-22, authorized tax overpayment refunds. 089R-22, authorizing an employee assistance program with RWJ Barnabas Health, one source, effective March 1st, 2022 through February 28th, 2023. 090R-22, authorize the second one-year time extension with respect to the Township's recycling collection contract with Soterra, Inc., for residential curbside recycling collection, the pods. Resolution 091R-22 is a resolution authorizing the participation in the National Opioid Settlement Program. And Council President, we've also had one late resolution, 092R-22. It's a resolution rejecting bids for the project entitled Various Turf Field Replacements and authorizing the purchase of same through the New Jersey State-approved cooperative pricing system and authorizing the township engineer to publicly bid the site work required to support said field replacements.
Did anybody get back up on the last one? That's my fault, I apologize. We got this real late in the day. The bids came in overpriced, and they found a state contract bid that we can use with the exception of the site work, hence this last resolution.
That's correct. Mr.
Correct.
McGuckin, anything further on that?
Just, we got the recommendation today. There's a couple of issues with the bids, but we do have a state contract we can utilize as well. Timing is important, which is why it's a late addition to the agenda, but 2 weeks could make a difference getting these fields done before the, mid-spring. So
Great.
that's what we're asking for authorization tonight.
Thank you. I would need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Chisholm?
Abstain from 81R22 and 87R22, but yes to the rest.
Okay, Councilman Sawicki?
Yes.
Council Vice President Kern?
Yes, and thank you for looking out for the township, rejecting the bids, and finding a better alternative.
Council President Fleming?
Yes,
Thank you.
Did we do the resolution on the opioid settlement?
we did.
We did.
Thank you. I missed it.
We will now have public comment on any topic. Please address the council at the microphone and identify your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Surrey Robinson, Jackson, New Jersey. First of all, Mr. Mayor and Council, I want to thank you for all you do. I love living here in Jackson. It is clean, serene, and I thank you for all the work you do behind the scenes to keep it that way, and lots of respect for what you do just sitting here tonight. I wanted to bring to your attention an issue of public transportation and safety that revolves around a growing number of Jackson residents that send their children to non-public schools. The Board of Education and the Transportation Department is aware of these issues, but I wanted to address it here. They're aware of the rapid growth that's happening in our community, and it's exacerbating the issue. Right now, there's 3,200 children that go to Lakewood schools from Jackson, and virtually none of them are being transported. So it causes an issue of public safety. There's lots of traffic. One school bus can displace over 50 cars on the road, and the unregulated carpools, vans that is going on is an issue of public safety. It's also an issue of a tremendous issue of quality of life. There are parents that are spending hours of the day driving our kids to school. I had to change all my work plans last minute because we're informed that there was no busing, so lots of parents had to cut back on their work hours. And in the past, the Jackson children attending non-public schools, the Jackson used some of the extra space on their buses or extra routes they had to transport about 400 to 500 kids over the past few years. But this past year, with the driver shortage, there was no extra room, so none of the kids are getting transported. And a system that's built to kind of help 400 to 500 kids in a good year can't accommodate the projected 5,000 kids that will be attending non-public schools next year, and all those cars that are going to be on the road. Over the past several years, it's been a 30% year-over-year at least increase in students from Jackson attending non-public schools. So we had a meeting with the Transportation Department in the past with school administrators and parents, and we were told, yes, there's going to be change, we're going to have improvement. Nothing has changed. We were informed in August that there's no transportation, left us in an impossible position. We weren't able to procure busing for our kids. We also had to inform our work that we couldn't be there at a certain time or leave early, such a last minute. There's lots of confusion over the paperwork between the schools, the parents, the transportation department. We've brought up these issues, but we're in the exact same position as we were last year. Nothing has changed. The system hasn't begun yet. Schools haven't been informed. The parents haven't been informed. There's no actual real change in progress, and the issue is growing year after year. So I'm afraid that we're headed nowhere again. So I thank you for looking into this and investigating what can actually be done. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheldon Hofstein, 48 Baltuswell Drive. And I'd just like to continue on the busing issue that was just brought up, and also on the state mandates that Councilman Chisholm brought up. There has recently been complaints regarding busing for private school students. There's one certainty. This busing is a state mandate and therefore an entitlement for those families who need this service. Remember, the state says we have to pay for it. The mandate has been in effect for more than 50 years, and I doubt that the state government at that time anticipated the possibility that thousands of children would be using this mandate. However, the funds used for this mandate have become a severe drain on public school budgets and affects the education of public school students. As more dollars are needed, school districts such as Jackson, Tarbes River, Brick, Manchester, and Howell will eventually be forced to cut back on non-mandated expenses and raise school taxes. Non-mandated expenses include funding for art programs, music programs, school band activities, sports programs, AP courses, and other extracurricular programs. The result will be lack of a full education for public school students that their parents demand. Therefore, this council should request, by passing a resolution stating that the state should be responsible for funding its mandate. You should also include in the mandate funding for special ed. There are already mandates that the state picks up for schools, and this includes health services, security programs, technology programs, textbook programs. All these the state gives for schools. So the state should pick up its own mandate for the busing issue. And also, the council should try to work with our Board of Education, which I'm sure you are, and with the affected towns listed above. Also, our state senators and our assemblymen and women should enact laws that will provide financial relief to school budgets that are feeling the burden of archaic laws. And luckily, our council has an Assemblyman McGunkin who can start the ball rolling, I hope. On another issue, the town has something called the Economic Advisory Committee, of which I had been a member of. This hasn't had a meeting in years. Looking at the town site, I still see I'm listed as the representative from the zoning board. I would appreciate if you would remove my name from that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Devorah Greskin, Jackson, New Jersey. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am a resident of Jackson for 4.5 years. I moved to my house with my husband and 4 little boys for the express purpose of being able to bring up my family with ample outdoor space for my children to run around, grow, and explore. With time, my 5th boy joined our gang. We love our home and the brush and the nature that it provides us, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all you council members for all that you do for this wonderful town that I live in. I do understand that this is a council meeting, and school transportation is not really your department per se. However, I also know that as mayor and council members, you take the responsibility of running this town very seriously. It is for this reason that I'm bringing this issue to your awareness, hoping that your oversight and attention will help us get to a safe and prompt resolution. I attended the Board of Education meeting with a few dozen other Jackson mothers on January 5th. We explained the issues that we face due to lack of transportation for our private school children and the impact that it's having on our lives and the lives of our friends and neighbors in the Jackson community. We parents informed the board that this is an extremely time-sensitive issue and must be resolved efficiently. I offered my assistance in communication and with planning as a mother of school children and as a transportation director in my school, familiar with the complexity of transporting so many different non-public school children to so many different schools. So far, my offer hasn't been met with any, communication. My friends, my neighbors, and I returned to the next board meeting, over 200 of us. Many of us spoke up again, brought up the urgency and the safety that must be addressed. Our impassioned pleas were basically met with bland repetitions about trying to improve with no clear commitment, no clear direction towards actual change. Improvements to a system that has consistently failed us, is a little bit of a joke. So one point that many of us brought up was that through no fault of their own, Jackson Township School District is not able to accommodate the unprecedented rapid growth and complex non-public school system. We're not here to lay blame. We're here to request that the Jackson School District take a realistic look at the non-public school needs, realize it's going to be impossible to provide transportation for us in a safe manner, or even be able to communicate the processes and the paperwork necessary for this. Few of us pointed out that the Lakewood Board of Ed faced similar challenges, and the LSTA has been successful at taking over the non-public school transportation and busing about 95% of the children. Mr. Mayor and Councilman Fleming, I appreciate you taking the time to meet and your continued work to resolve this public safety concern. I'm hopeful that you'll be able to address the safety issue and keep us informed of your progress in this public forum, especially because this is a time-sensitive and important matter. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Dye. I'm a former resident of Jackson Township. I live in Howell, New Jersey now. I just wanted to bring an issue to your attention, to the council and the mayor's attention. I lived here since 1998. My children were born and raised here, both graduated. I did my best to be a contributing resident to this township. I served on the Board of Education for over 13 years. I just wanted to bring an issue to your attention. It's in reference to our chief of police. While I was a resident, on September 2nd, I applied for my firearms permit. My 2 references were completed and updated in the New Jersey firearms system on September 7th. I was fingerprinted on September 18th. My background check cleared the state police on September 28th, and Officer Colangelo completed my background on September 28th, and it was submitted to Chief Kuntz. I made approximately 3 phone calls reaching out because I was in transition of moving. I did not, at the time, have a timetable of how the closing was going to go and everything. It did move rather rapidly. I received the CO from the township to turn over my home, which I rented back after closing on December 8th. December 30th, I received an email from Officer Colangelo that he had been assigned to reinvestigate me. I could have easily told you I moved. I did reach out again a few times, letting them know I was moving. My firearms permit was with the chief 90 days past state police clearance and 119 days past my initial application. I was cleared on the 28th. He needed to sign it, and he chose not to. I did withdraw my application as advised by the state police and reapplied in the town that I now reside in. I was instructed to bring this to your attention, which I hope you would look into it to see why this is happening. I know for a fact that this was personal, and I know he has done this before. This needs to be addressed. This is my Second Amendment right that he is choosing to step on. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you.
Eleanor Hannum, Jackson, New Jersey. I just want to add to what Sharon had just said. Both my husband and I had applied for our permits. It took Jackson Township over 8 months to get our gun permit, which is far past the amount of time. And my husband is an officer of the court, so his should have cleared. I'm a teacher. I should have cleared. So clearly, there's something going on there. We didn't question it at the time, but I can definitely say that there's an issue as far as that. I have a few questions. I believe it was back in June of 2021, I had brought up the fact that the tax map, the tax map online is broken. So if I go on, I was looking at the River Farms property, and I go on the tax map, and I click on Zone 3, and it comes up, and now I want to look at this parcel, and I click on that, the link is broken. I have brought it up several times. I was told back in June that it would be looked into and addressed and fixed. It still is not fixed. with the technology, Mr. Wall is the one that told me he would take care of this. Do we have a professional that can fix this?
Yes, we have 2 full-time IT folks. I'll check with them in the morning and have them verify that that's fixed. If it's not, I'll report back out.
Okay, well, I get, because, you know, I'll get into that part. Will I get an answer? Will I get an email? Because has become my experience more and more over the past few months that if I send an email, I am not getting a reply. Nobody is responding. I thought this was going to be a government of accountability and transparency, and I'm just blatantly being ignored. So I will give you a more recent example. At the council meeting, December 23rd, I had come down with COVID, and I did want to come to that meeting. I did reach out via email. I believe I addressed Mr. McGuckin, Council President Kern, and Mr. Wall. And I believe at the time Janice Kisty was on that email. And I had stated the fact that I have COVID, so I cannot come. I could have come and just spread it to everybody, but I take that quite serious that I don't want to harm someone else. So I asked how they could accommodate the fact that I had some questions that I want to take part in this meeting. And no one replied. There was absolutely no answer to my email. I finally did get a reply because before the end of the office day, I did decide to call the clerk's office. I don't remember exactly who I spoke with. It was not Janice. And I had stated that I sent an email, I want to participate in our public meeting, but I am being quarantined because I was sick. How could I be accommodated? I was put on hold, and then she came back on the phone and instructed me that they were advised by Mr. McGuckin that they are not going to accommodate that.
Okay.
So, again, that is just going back to the fact that there was no reply. No one answered my email. My other question is, how long, when a question comes to this council or to our township attorney or business administrator, how long does it take for the research to be done to finally get an answer?
Would depend on the question.
Okay, so back in May, I had asked Mr. Wall about looking into getting the placards for the historical landmarks throughout town. I was told that he would look into it and get back to me. That was in May. Back in July, there was a question posed to this council regarding a leaked email correspondence regarding Ms. Jen Cusinelli. Mr. McGuckin was going to look into it and get back to her, and has not. As far as the courts, I do know the courts are out, just like education is out of your jurisdiction. But our court system, our municipal court system, is open public. The public can go and participate. Back in October, there were numerous residents from Whispering Hills who were told that they could participate in the court proceedings in December for 16 Short Hills Boulevard. That is not true. There is no link. Not one of those residents are able or capable to participate or to sit and bear witness to that court proceeding because it's still on Zoom. Many municipalities give the Zoom link on their website, so you can watch the court, but Jackson Township does not do that. I know I can't ask you the question as to why, that is up to the judge. But I don't know, maybe Mr. McGuckin can answer that question.
I have no knowledge of it. Is there anything you can answer on that?
Yeah, the courts are supposed to be available for public inspection. I'm not aware of the issue you raised. At any court I've been involved in, municipal court, public's allowed to watch.
Not in Jackson.
Your complaint would go to the courts, and they have an obligation to ensure that the public can observe what's going on in court,
Then
the
that,
public portions of the court.
that needs to be addressed. I had to get private,
We can't tell the
Permission.
court what to do, so you would have to bring that up to the court for them to do it.
okay. Then my question is, were you counsel to Jackson versus, I don't remember his name, Mr. Bernath?
I'm sorry, who?
16 Shore Hills Boulevard, that
No,
it was Jackson versus Aaron Bernath.
no.
That court hearing took place in December, and many residents wanted to know the outcome. I have sent an email to the court clerk asking what the disposition has been. I still have not gotten an answer. When it comes to 16 Short Hills Boulevard, that home, which has vacated its use on certain days of the week, has just did some work on its septic system because it was failing. So who is the I know the county has jurisdiction over inspecting that septic system, but what responsibility does Jackson Township have?
As far as I know, everything goes to the Board of Health for a septic system.
Okay, because this property owner did work on this septic system utilizing the old owner's name and her permit. It was all completely done, not under the new owner, nor did the new owner express the fact that there are 30-plus individuals that reside there for 4 days a week.
You're not asking a question. I'm sorry. What's your question?
Well, my question is at that point, because from what I understand, there's no CCO on this property either, what is Jackson's responsibility
If
at
there's no
that point?
CCO, it would go to our code enforcement. But the septic system is county level,
Okay, so our building department,
not our building department, code enforcement.
okay. Because that too, these are all quality of life issues. I hear about quality of life issues, but the quality of life where people live is also an issue and should be respected. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else come forward, move to close the public portion.
I do have a comment, and I know my deputy chair has a comment as well. To the two young ladies or three young ladies came up about busing, we have been in contact with the Board of Ed. We are working together towards a finalization of the problem. I can't say how fast it's going to be from our end, because we really don't have a whole lot of control over the Board of Ed. We can give them our opinions, and we can try and direct them the way we want to go. They're going to go the way they want to go, but we're working at it. All right? Mr. Kern.
Thank you. Earlier today, speaking about the busing and the funding in our schools in general, the judge approved that the Department of Education, the State Department of Education, needed to show the formula that they used or how they distributed the state funds from district to district, and how all those funds were redistributed in 2018. The state needs to comply with this and not appeal so that we can all understand for transparency reasons and to work towards getting the most for our community. They need to show how they redistributed those funds, why so much money was taken away from Jackson and neighboring towns, and allow us the opportunity to reclaim them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a safe trip home, everybody.